Microphone check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Microphone check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Media good? Good.
Can you turn? If there's any legislators that have not made their way to the stage, would you please do that at this time? Any legislators that are in the building and you have not made your way to the stage, would you do that at this time, please? Hello. If you would, please get your refreshments or anything as soon as you can and get to your seat so we can get this started. We're kind of a little bit behind schedule, but just hastily, please. How you doing? No. Who are you looking for? Thomas.
Prepped you, but I was going to say, be sure you tell them the governor from the great state of Texas.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to read.
Oh, okay. Oh.
I'll screw it up. They want them down here.
Well, on both ends.
Both ends? Okay.
Yeah, because
Does it matter? Do they just need to sit down? And
His guy said he'd lock them down here.
What's that?
He said he'd lock them down here. Does it matter which side we get on, or you want them all down here? Ladies and gentlemen, and honored guests, please assist me in welcoming the governor of the great state of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, to the stage.
Governor, so good to see you. Hey, good to see you. Spiller. Hey. Good to see you, man. Well, I want to thank everybody for being at this event today. Very important event. Anytime we have sheriffs gathered together in the state, that unto itself makes it important. You know, Texas is a law and order state, and that begins with our sheriffs. It's the sheriffs who are on the front lines, making sure that our communities are safe. You're on the front lines. You know your community is probably far better than any other law enforcement officer in the entire state of Texas. And we've seen, especially over the past few weeks, the importance of having a sheriff who can do more than just provide law and order, but who can provide order to a community that in desperate need of that order. And so it's an honor to be here with you again. We're going to have an opportunity to spend some time with an extraordinary American, a great friend of mine, and a person maybe doing more than anybody else to help secure the homeland of the United States of America, and that is Tom Homan. And I'm about to sign with you all, in front of you all, a couple of pieces of legislation that were passed this session that have a direct connection to Tom Homan and what he's trying to do to secure the country. Along those lines, there are many legislators with us here today, some who were authors of these two pieces of legislation, as well as others who were deeply committed to law and order in the state of Texas. They include Senator Birdwell, Senator Huffman, Senator Parker, Representative Patterson, Representative Pearson, Representative Schatzline, Representative Spiller, Representative Tinderholt, Representative McQuinney, Representative Cook, and Representative Louderback. Some of you may know Louderback from a prior life. Anyway, one of the bills I'm going to be signing is Senate Bill 8. and it requires every sheriff in Texas to cooperate with ICE to help ICE better do its job. It requires sheriffs to enter into 287G agreements with ICE. It authorizes sheriff officers to enforce federal immigration law. Important to you all, this is probably the first question you had in your head. Okay, what about the funding for it? Funding was set aside, $20 million for a grant program to assist local sheriffs in their operations. That's funding that's going to be available over the course of the next biennium, and if we find in the next biennium that there's more funding needs to be able to address this response situation, is something we'll be more than happy to take up. The goal in signing this legislation is singular. It's the goal that I have every day, the goal that you have every day, and that is to make our state more safe, make our communities and streets more safe. This legislation I'm about to sign with Senate Bill 8 accomplishes that. A second law that I'm going to sign is Senate Bill 36. Senate Bill 36 establishes the Homeland Security Division within the Texas Department of Public Safety. It does multiple things. One thing that it does is it consolidates the Border Security Operations Center and the Joint Operations and Intelligence Center all within one operation at DPS. It adds personnel, expands the operational scope. It maintains, importantly, it maintains the collaboration that we have in our state. Homeland Security is not a focus solely of one agency like the DPS. This is a multi-jurisdiction, multi-agency operation that insists and must have collaboration at the federal, state, and local levels. So know this, and that is what is going to be going on in DPS just enhances the collaboration that already exists with our sheriffs across the state. Through the operation, we will enhance the state's response to growing threats from foreign nations as well as terrorists who do a lot of different things that endanger our state. These terrorists and foreign hostile actors, and I'll throw the cartels in the mix here also, they work every day to try to find ways to exploit our border. They find ways to infiltrate our state and compromise our critical infrastructure. The threat to our critical infrastructure is doing nothing but growing because of the sophistication by Chinese actors, Russian actors, cartels, and others. If we're not awake to this, we will be awakened to it by disaster caused by these foreign hostile actors. It's something that all of us must collaborate on at the state and local levels. I want to thank Senators Parker, Huffman, Schwartner, Representative Spiller, and Hefner, who were the leads in getting these two pieces of legislation to my desk. And also want to thank all of the representatives and senators who joined with us here today for their commitment to our state, making sure that we ended this session with a safer state and a pathway for greater safety in our communities than ever before. Senate Bill 8 and Senate Bill 36 are now law in the great state of Texas. All right, now, you'll say a few words? Go for it.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, what an honor to be with all of you today, with so many incredible sheriffs from across Texas. And Governor, thank you for your leadership. The governor has been extraordinary in understanding the importance of security for years and years, obviously, in this role. And we're so grateful for all that he does, along with all my colleagues here behind us that enabled us to get these pieces of legislation across the goal line. Let me comment for a moment on Senate Bill 36 that I was blessed to be able to carry. What I will tell you is that, and the governor, I think, did a great job of summarizing it, we live in a new world in 2025, as you all know, uniquely. The threats to our people and to our way of life are truly unique. And as a result of that, we have to respond, and we have to do so in an aggressive and proactive manner. That's what this is all about. This is about putting in place an infrastructure that enables us to address all of the various threats that are coming our way. And so by consolidating all of our capabilities into this Division of Homeland Security under DPS, we do that. We break the silos, and we provide a dedicated focus always on border security, regardless of what's happening in Washington, along with the importance of always having a dedicated group to address infrastructure security. We have real threats that are from within our own country, as well as adversarial countries around the world. And we've got to do everything in our power to be ready, because my assessment, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We've got to be ready for these kind of challenges in the decades ahead. And so with that, I just want to thank you, Governor, for your leadership. I want to thank my colleagues in the House and Senate for all their support in making this happen. And most of all, each of you in this room for all you do every day, keeping all 31 million people in Texas safe. So thank you all very much for being here.
Thank you. Now, Representative Spiller.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Governor Abbott. I'm honored, we're honored to be here today with you to celebrate this victory for border security in our state, for victory for public safety in our communities. I've said all along that SB 8 is not only the strongest border security bill that we passed this legislative session. In my view, it's also the strongest law enforcement bill that we passed this legislative session. And so it represents a strong, decisive step toward a more secure border and safer neighborhoods. Texans have made it clear that they expect their leaders to prioritize public safety, to uphold the rule of law, and to take meaningful action on illegal immigration. SB 8 delivers on that point. And so by requiring counties to participate in the Section 280G program, the bill strengthens cooperation with our federal partners, ensures criminal illegal aliens are properly identified, detained, and removed, not released back into our communities. So I was proud to carry this bill in the House. I appreciate working with many of my colleagues here today, especially Representative A.J. Louderback. Y'all trained him well. He's done a great job. And also I thank Speaker Burrows for entrusting me to do this and get this across the finish line. And I want to say too, this bill is an example of what happens when the House and the Senate work together. And honestly, this bill got stronger and better as we went through the legislative process, thanks to in large part to the people that are here on this stage here today. So I appreciate that. I appreciate all the legislators that stood firm. I appreciate you sheriffs that showed up, that testified, that supported this. I appreciate all that you do. Thank you for having us here today. We appreciate the job you do in your communities and in the state of Texas. Thank you all.
Thank you all. I think we are now going to transition into our next segment.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate you.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining Governor Abbott on stage for a fireside chat that will be moderated by Goliad County Sheriff and our chaplain, Roy Boyd, is going to be our honored guest this morning, along with Governor Abbott, someone that's no stranger to us and the efforts that's been made. When I reached out to both their offices, I asked for emphasis on both the initiatives that Texas and the United States has made and is making, as well as the challenges to border security in our country as well as our state. So please help me in welcoming a gentleman that was appointed January the 20th of 2025 as the first border czar to the United States White House, someone that, again, in President Trump's administration in 2017 was appointed the acting director of the United States Customs and Immigration Services, a 34-year law enforcement veteran, Mr. Tom Homan.
On behalf of the Sheriff's Association of Texas and all the sheriffs across this great state, I'd like to extend an appreciation for both of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to come out here and speak with us today. Both of you have made an immense difference in the quality of life of the people in our communities. You know, Governor, during the last administration, we were overrun. We didn't have the resources. And you threw us the lifeline that saved our communities and helped us to reduce the amount of crime that was taking place and safeguard our people, make them feel safe to stay at home at night. Since you've come in, the border is more secure than we've seen in my lifetime. And we greatly appreciate the efforts that you've made, and we're very thankful that President Trump put an able-bodied man in there that's capable of doing the things that need to be done and the hard business that needs to be taken care of, such as yourself in a position of border czar. Thank you. I have a few questions here for you, and we will get started. First question is for you, Governor. Governor, first and foremost, let's talk about the devastating floods that struck Central Texas over July 4th weekend. The news reports have shown the utter disaster and devastation that it was caused by the walls of water that ripped through the towns, including Hunt, Georgetown, and of course, Kerrville. Can you give us an update on the rescue and recovery efforts and describe how all these different agencies and organizations have come together to help their fellow Texans in their time of need?
Well, thank you. And come together is exactly what has happened. But first, you all have seen the devastation, whether you were there in person or you've seen it on TV, whatever the case may be. This is the worst flooding event, I think, in the history of the state of Texas, and something that is almost unbelievable. As sheriffs, you all probably all deal with flash flood warnings in one form or another. It doesn't matter if you're in the Rio Grande Valley or up in the Panhandle. It could be in East Texas or out in West Texas. There have been flash flood warnings in each of those regions just this year alone. So when you hear a flash flood warning, even a dangerous, life-threatening flash flood warning, how high do you think that's going to be? 5 feet? 10 feet? Maybe even 20 feet. If the water had risen 20 feet, I don't think any of those children in that Camp Mystic would have been harmed in any way. Because the water rose, by some estimates, about 30 feet, which looks like it may be the height of this roof in this room, it led to a massive tidal wave, tsunami wave of water that rushed through that little canyon of the Guadalupe River. And that's what caused such carnage, such devastation, and took so many lives. More than 100 Texans have already lost their life because of the flood. There's more than 100 who are still missing. Go back to Hurricane Harvey, what I think was the worst storm that we had before this. There have been far more people lose their life because of this flooding incident than those who lost their lives in Hurricane Harvey. It's just horrendous. That said, circling back to your question, as much of a tragedy as it has been, it's also been a scene of heroism every single day. Despite those who have lost their lives, or even more than that, who had their lives saved by people who went into danger to literally rescue and pull out of rushing waters those who were on the verge of losing their life. It includes so many people. You mentioned maybe some first responders. Before we get to first responders, I want to talk for a second just about the camp counselors. 18-year-old girls who went to the rescues, and they were trained about what to do to make sure they were going to get some children out of harm's way. In the cabins that were closest to the water, some of the counselors at Camp Mystic were able to march 8-year-old girls up a mountainside in heavy rain and storms and thunder and lightning to ensure they got to a place of safety. Other counselors were literally pulling little girls out of cabins and out of compromised situations. And then within a matter of hours, there were helicopter rescues, whether it were done by the Coast Guard, by Texas Department of Public Safety, by the Texas National Guard, by local operations. Everybody was involved in one way or the other. And then, of course, all of our broad-based emergency first responders, including our sheriffs, including local police, local firefighters, swiftwater rescue teams, all of them across the board. It could be water rescues with craft on water itself. It could be literally plucking people out of trees that were clinging to that tree for their life. It could be people who were stuck in compromised situations. It could be people who were in vehicles that got caught up in the water and they were rescued out of their vehicles. There's countless different ways in which people were rescued. Hundreds of lives were saved by emergency responders in just the first 24 hours of that vicious storm, and more as the days went on. Someone who has done an extraordinary job. I mentioned it moments ago briefly. But Sheriff Letha, Kerr County Sheriff Letha, has really been an example to the entire country. He's worth applauding. I've been there more times than I can count. I'm dressed the way I am because I'm heading down to Kerrville. The moment I walk off the stage, well, that would be a sight if I walked off the stage. The moment I leave the stage, I'm headed to Kerrville again. And kind of the point person in Kerrville to coordinate the emergency operations, to ensure a safe community, but to be a level head in all the meetings that were taking place down there was Sheriff Letha. And the community is far better off because of everything that he's done. And listen, I know he's been working about 36 hours a day. I don't say how he does it, but he's been able to maintain calm and ease and professionalism the entire way. And of course, something he did that you all probably saw that I myself posted on social media is he showed what Texans are all about. Because when President Trump came to visit, President Trump, myself, and Melania were lined up, and Judge Letha was giving an explanation about what exactly happened on the ground. He went to President Trump and shook his hand, went to myself and shook my hand, went to Melania and took his hat off and said, "Pleasure to meet you, ma'am," then put his hat back on. And the gentlemanness, if you want to call it that, the way we as Texans operate, the way that you as sheriffs operate, by taking your hats off in front of a woman, showed the rest of America a quality, a character that all of you all have. In addition to the qualities and characters of heroism that Sheriff Letha and so many other first responders have displayed and will continue to display until we get through this process. And know this, just last thing, I know I've been talking a while, I'll be real quick. We have a special session beginning next week. In that special session, we're going to be working on ways to improve preparation and response to things like this. One will be early warning systems, and if you live in a community that is prone to flooding, listen, you're going to want to be weighing in on these issues. But another that we found was something that needs to be significantly improved, and that is communication interoperability. It's an issue that many of you have been talking about for years. an issue that's a big challenge in so many communities. We have to get that done and get it done right. Your input in this upcoming session will be very valuable to making sure that we do get that communication interoperability done correctly. So thank you again for everything that you and your peers have been doing. I know many of you in this room have been caught up in counties where the storms got hit. We cannot thank you enough. Texans and Americans cannot thank you enough for everything that you've done.
Thank you, Governor. I appreciate you highlighting Sheriff Letha. He's an outstanding man, and he's a great friend. Tom? Another big news story here in Texas last week were the shootings targeting ICE and Border Patrol officers in Alvarado and McAllen. Some of the brave sheriff's deputies played a key part in stopping that incident in Alvarado. What has caused the recent spike in violence against law enforcement in this country, and how do we ensure that the sheriffs, police officers, and federal agents trying to keep our country safe from criminals are not assaulted by rogue citizens?
Well, you know, I said, first of all, I went to Alvarado yesterday and met the sheriff and the local law enforcement that responded to that, and met the officer that was shot. And, you know, God bless each and every one of them. When they were called, they responded, and that was just terrific. We're still looking for one, and we will find him. The others are facing serious charges and consequences, and that's exactly what should happen. Look, I said 2 months ago, and I was attacked by the left for making a statement. I said if the rhetoric continues against ICE officers in the Border Patrol, there will be bloodshed. And of course, left said, you know, call me a fearmonger. How dare he say such a thing? But I've seen this game before. I've been around a long time, especially rhetoric from members of Congress. I mean, you got senators and congressmen comparing ICE to Nazis, racists, Gestapo. It's just never ending. And when an average citizen hears that kind of language from a member of Congress, they feel, you know, the nuts on the left. And, you know, I don't mind protesters at all. They have their constitutional right to protest. Have at it. But you got that population, that percentage who's going to take it one step further and do criminal acts. For those people that are unhinged, they feel emboldened when a member of Congress can attack ICE and comparing them to, you know, Hitler and what happened, you know, back then. And it's just terrible. And it's an insult to the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol, just like you all in this audience, who strap a gun to their hip every day to enforce the law that Congress enacted. And that's what I'm trying to get out. The message is for members of Congress to attack ICE for enforcing the immigration law and calling them racist for enforcing the law. Well, what does that make them? They wrote the law, but they're walking away from it. Look, I'm proud of a bunch of things right now. I'm proud today, while we sit here, we have the most secure border in the history of this nation because of the actions of President Trump. I was looking at total arrests this morning, DHS-wide. We're just shy of 300,000 arrests. So, you know, we're arresting about 3 times more than Joe Biden did, and we got the most secure border in my lifetime. How many people are being released from the border? 0. Are being released from the border. You know, I looked at the stats where 1,800 a day, on average under Biden, 1,800 a day that we knew crossed the border and got away. Call them gotaways, known gotaways, because we call them on drone traffic, sensor traffic, you know, various means. 1,800 a day average. Some days many more. Yesterday, 9. Went from 1,800 to 9. 9 too many. We'll plug that hole. And but ICE and Border Patrol are more successful now than they've ever been, and we're going to keep doing the job. We're not turning our back. I talked to Governor Abbott just before we came out here, and he pledged Texas law enforcement will help support ICE when they're driving away from the operation and people are pelting stones at the vehicles. You know, President, I was sitting in my house the other night. I finally got a day off. I'm sitting in my house the other day, and I was watching Laura Ingraham, and I look at my phone rings, it was POTUS. President Trump, he called me and said, I'm sick and tired of the attacks on ICE officers. I'm sick and tired of the damage being done to the government property. We got to stop it. And I agree. Yeah, absolutely. So that's when he sent the tweet out that, you know, 0 tolerance. You impede a federal ICE officer, you're going to jail. You put a hands on an officer, you're going to jail. You knowingly harbor, conceal an illegal alien, you're going to jail. You throw a rock at an ICE officer, you're going to jail. You damage a government vehicle, you're going to jail. This shit stops now. And President Trump's going to make a point that happens. So the short answer to your question, how are we going to attack it? We're going to attack it by consequences. Consequences work. Bad behavior won't change unless there's consequences. We're proving that. Look, the most secure border because we have DOD down there. We have because we got almost zero crossings. Every border patrol agent's on the border. So having boots on the ground matters. Governor Abbott proved that when he had the most secure border during the Biden administration because of actions he took, not the federal government. But consequences matter. I really think what you're seeing with over 1,000 enforcement teams across this nation out there every day looking for those illegal aliens or public safety threats and national security threats, I think they're showing the whole world there are consequences. If you happen to get by the Border Patrol, or if you're one of the millions of Biden released into the United States illegally, you're not off the table. We're coming for you. And because of these teams, these operations, I think consequences are just as equal as boots on the ground, and that's why the population that's coming across the border right now are historic lows, never seen before. Number of people coming across the border the other day was 82. 82 compared to 15,000 under Joe Biden. Amazing progress by the men and women of the border, so hats off to them.
And of course, you have Mike Banks running the Border Patrol. It's Border Patrol chief. And so I think, maybe that means you get some of that credit for that federal success, Governor, because weren't you the one that appointed him border czar and then gave him over for Tom Homan to have? Is that not right? So.
Well, I'm not taking any of that credit. I will tell you this, so what they've done is really astonishing, record-breaking. I've never seen the number of crossings be as low as they are in my lifetime in Texas. And it's a complete game changer. So as Tom Homan was talking about, there were literally thousands of people coming across the border a day. We got some border sheriffs up here. There's some others out in the audience. And you saw what was happening in small little communities where not only were they coming across, but they would dump 1,000 off in Eagle Pass or Del Rio or someplace like that, completely incapable of dealing with it, which is why Texas had to step up and do something about it. But as the chief executive officer of a government like the state of Texas, I can tell you it's one thing for the leader of that state or leader of that government to say, this is what we're going to do, let's go do it. It takes more to actually have the people who are going to step into it and get it done. The point is this. It's great to have a president, for the first time ever, to insist on a secure border. But it takes more than a president who demands that. It takes the right personnel to execute it. And if you had to go into a lab and design the right person to secure the border, that person would be Tom Homan. This is a guy who's so responsible for achieving that success. But listen, what we have today is a partnership. This time last year, we were still dealing with people coming across the border illegally. And as soon as the election took place, and definitely on January the 20th of this year, it changed overnight. A lot of people can quickly forget what we had to do under the Biden administration that let in well over 10 million people. And a problem with the more than 10 million people who've come across the border is some of the dangerous people. You know, someone who was arrested, I think you guys were involved in the arrest, they arrested a guy who was a sniper from Iran just a few weeks ago. There are known criminals, known murderers, known rapists, as well as known terrorists that have come across our border where we do not know who they are or where they are. But we somehow have to be able to find them before they cause some cataclysmic problem in whatever community. But because of what we were dealing with the volume coming across the border, that's exactly why Texas is the only state in the history of the country to build our own border wall, to deploy the National Guard to the border, to have so many National Guard on the border that we built 2 military bases on the border to house all the Border Patrol officers that we had down there. And to put that razor wire into the river, to make the arrests we made, to pass another law, Senate Bill 4, last session, to make sure that we would have the power to make those arrests, is just incalculable what we had to go through. Now, we still have the National Guard on the border. We still have Texas Department of Public Safety involved. But instead of having to act in a way hostile to our own country, we're now partners with a very effective federal government. The National Guard have been deputized by the Border Patrol to be Border Patrol agents on the border, to be able to make the apprehensions, the detentions, and be involved in the deportation process. The Texas Department of Public Safety is working hand in hand with ICE to assist ICE on their operations in the state of Texas. And we as a state are supporting what the Trump administration is doing. As a result, we are able to take resources that had been deployed to our own border strategies and instead apply those resources in a way that are supportive of the best president in the history of America at securing our border. So it's a new day in the state of Texas, and it's because of President Trump and Tom Homan that we have that new day.
Well, first of all, I wanted to, and you're not finished. I sat over there and watched you sign a bill, a game changer, 287G. Thank you, Sheriff. This is a game changer for us. 287G is a very important program. So, again, adding consequences for those who want to violate laws are huge. Look, I'm not going to take credit for anything because the men and women wearing that green uniform, the men and women, the ICE, they're out there every day. Like I said, I always say, 3 o'clock this morning, I was laying in my hotel room bed, and there's Border Patrol agents standing on a dirt trail someplace defending this nation. So the men and women of the Border Patrol, the men and women of ICE, the finest 1% this country's got, because you're a law enforcement officer like you all. You all are the finest 1% this nation has because you put your lives on the line every day for this nation. I know you don't make a lot of money, but you're out there putting your lives on the line, so aren't your deputies. So God bless you, and God bless you for signing that 287G. That's a game changer for the state of Texas. I actually got a little excited over there watching you sign it. So I don't smile often. I smile there, so I appreciate that.
So a little bit of a follow-up there. So how is the work of the federal government and the Trump administration, has that allowed you to focus on other critical public safety needs in the state of Texas?
Well, because we do have a federal government that is actually securing the border, because we have people like Homan and ICE that are getting these dangerous people off the streets and enforcing the consequences that Tom Homan is talking about, it allows us, for one, to deploy our officers, DPS officers, as well as our National Guard in ways that support the efforts of the federal government. We're a force multiplier for them. Whenever they go into a danger zone, we're going to be there to assist them in that danger zone. They got a job to do, and we have to have the law enforcement who will have their back, provide a protective shield around them, and assist them in any way we can, because we have a collective mission. And that is to ensure that anybody who is here illegally, especially those here illegally who are criminals, that we get them off the streets as fast as we possibly can. And that goes to the core of what we all want to achieve, and that's to have safer communities. And so we're able to now use our resources that focus on those safer communities, but also get our DPS officers who were doing overtime, working on the border. They were taking time away from communities in Amarillo and Wichita Falls and Waco and elsewhere. They're now able to spend more time back in their own communities, making sure those communities are safe, as well as to patrol the highways like they had before. We've dealt a whole lot together. I mean, Sheriff Boyd is a quintessential example. He's not on the border, but he was dealing with the consequences of an open border as much as any other sheriff in the state of Texas because of cartel activity or gang activity or trafficking activity coming through his county. I know the same is true for many of the other sheriffs in the room also. And we are now there able to assist you in your local community provide support for you all in your local community, whereas in the past we had to have those officers dedicated to denying illegal entry into the state of Texas.
Thank you, Governor. Tom, we've seen several jurisdictions push back against your enforcement of federal immigration laws. Cities like Los Angeles and New York have pledged to thwart your efforts to round up dangerous criminals and prevent the administration from enforcing the laws. How are you going to combat these efforts?
Well, yeah, they're saying they're going to push back and prevent us from doing our job. Well, good luck with that, because President Trump is committed on sanctuary cities. We're going to double down. We're going to triple down on sanctuary cities. They're not going to stop us from doing what we're doing. So we're going to give sanctuary cities exactly what they don't want. More agents in the communities, more worksite enforcement. We're going to flood the zone with ICE officers. For instance, Texas, with this new bill. Florida. I mean, we got states where the sheriffs are actually working with us. So we can send additional resources to problem areas where we know they're releasing public safety threats to the street every day. So that's where we're going to send extra resources. President Trump said it 3 weeks ago. We're going to flood the zone of sanctuary cities, not because they're blue, because they're releasing public safety threats back in the community, which is just plain stupid. And we know it causes a public safety crisis. And people ask, well, what is the issue of sanctuary cities? The sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals. We don't want law enforcement to be immigration officers. We just want cops to work with cops. We want access to the jail where they lock somebody up that's in the country illegally. But they release them back in the community. We got to send a whole team to find them. It makes it harder, makes it less efficient. So guess what? We're going to send a hell of a lot more teams to sanctuary cities. We're going to focus and prioritize sanctuary cities. That's the right thing to do because we know that's a public safety crisis. And for the left and some back there, the TV cameras, are going to report that what we're doing is inhumane. I saw a couple television shows this morning on the hotel room. Now, let me make something clear. People are attacking ICE for doing what we're doing right now. Why is there a mass deportation operation? Because we just went for 4 years of massive illegal immigration on the border, where 10.5 million people came to the border. The Biden administration released them into the United States, in my opinion, illegally. They abused the parole statute. We know, based on immigration court data from the last 10 years, nearly 9 out of 10 people who claim asylum end up with an order of removal because they're not escaping fear and persecution from their home government because of race, religion, political affiliation. They're coming for a better life, and I get that, but it's not asylum. They're asylum cheaters. So 9 out of 10 people who said, I demand due process, I demand the right to claim asylum, I demand the right to see a judge. Okay, but when that judge said you're going to be removed, which 9 out of 10, we're going to remove you. Because due process don't mean shit if the final decision of the court isn't handed out. That's just a stone cold fact. And for the media reporting, well, ICE is arresting a lot of non-criminals. They don't understand that many of these non-criminals who are arrested have final orders of removal. So they had due process at great taxpayer expense. They were order removed, but they ignored the order and became a fugitive. So yeah, we're looking for them too. And we're going to execute those orders and remove them. Because if we don't do that, if we send a message to the whole world, it's okay to enter the country illegally. It's a crime, but don't worry about it. You can make a request to see a judge. If you lose your case, don't worry about it. We're not looking for you. No. We're sending a message to the whole world. We're a nation of laws. We'll give you due process. But in that due process, if you're ordered home, you're going home. So with all the fake media stories out there about ICE's arresting all these non-criminals, first of all, they're in the country illegally. If you're in the country illegally, you are not off the table. We prioritize the worst first. That makes sense. But it doesn't mean you prioritize this group. Everybody else is good to go. That's the message we can't send the whole world. We'll never fix this problem. Now we got the strongest president in my lifetime who's simply enforcing the law. We're not making this up. Everybody wants to talk to attack ICE for being, the Nazi and the Gestapo. They're not making this up. They're enforcing the laws Congress enacted. They're executing orders issued by a federal judge. That is what they're doing. And we're not going to be ashamed of doing it. And the attack on ICE officers up over 700%. They're not only they being doxxed, their wives are being doxxed, or their spouses, their children are being doxxed. I've never seen in my lifetime a situation where people think it's okay to attack a federal law enforcement officer and his family. So the ones who enforce the law are the bad guys. The ones who violate law are the victims. It's just incredible. People have lost their minds. But there's one thing that won't change. ICE isn't going away. Border Patrol's not going away. Tom Homan isn't going away. We're going to get this done without apology. It's going to go done.
Thank you. Governor, you have a long and successful record of working